Paul, can you hear me?
Hi, Paul. I can hear you very well.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I've got an issue with Jim's microphone, it looks like. Gautam, are you here yet? Okay, I'm going to go. Gautam's in the same building as I am, so I'm going to mute this and give him a phone call.
I don't know. I mean, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? Yeah, I did. Can you hear me, Rob? Hello? Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Alan. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Paul, is that you?
Yes, it's Paul Osman.
Okay, can you hear me fine, Paul?
Yes, I can. It's a little quiet, but that's okay.
Okay.
Gautam, on your, you've got a volume control on your headset, and also you should probably turn there's a microphone control right there on the, you turn that up to high, and then the little dial there is for your earbuds.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me fine now?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Jim, are you there? Jim Woods? Okay, I'll try to get Jim on the telephone. Jim, if you can hear me, will you please phone us? Our number is 901-388-5988. 901-388-5988.
Excuse me, Donna.
Yes, Lisa.
Did you ask James Woods to call you?
Yeah, Rob is expecting his call.
Rob is?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Rob, that's Jim on the phone.
Hi, it's Paul here. Are you ready to start? Or
I think we are waiting for Jim. He's having some problem with his
okay,
audio.
that's cool.
It'll be just a couple of
Sure,
more
no
minutes.
problem. Sure, no problem.
Right. This is Rob, and I've spoken with Jim on the telephone just now. He's got some problems with his audio, which he can hear us, but
Okay.
we can't hear him. I'm watching for him to talk to us on the chat system. So we're going to go ahead and start. And when he has something that he wants to say, he can say it or type it to me, and I'll see it. So let's go ahead and start with this. Today we're going to talk. This is technical session number 1, Introduction to the RBackup Server and Client Software. Today we're going to be talking about installing the RBS server, customizing email notifications, basic client installation, creating client installers, installing the RBS client software. We're going to tour the simple phase, and then we're going to do a backup and restore. And this is all the basic stuff. Once we get done with this, you should be able to install your RBS server and your clients, create basic customizations, and actually go into business. You should be able to do all of this. Today we only have 2 people in the webinar today, and only one of them has access to a microphone. So we're gonna go ahead. Just jump in there, Paul. If you want to ask any questions, just start talking, and I think we'll be able to hear you and answer your questions.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Alrighty. Let's see. Or turn off your cell phones and get your dogs out of the room. All that normal stuff. Okay. So now, Paul, you've been a long time with us, and what I'd like to know is, what can we cover today that's of specific interest to you? If we go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, we had RBS a long time ago, and when we looked at the marketplace, we could see that you had a good product and good reporting and stuff. And we've sat with it, and we've never we pushed it a little bit, but what I want to do is to reinvigorate that business and really push it hard over the next sort of 6-9 months and build it up, because we've got a 250-seat license and we're not using more than 20. So we really want to move it forward a little bit. So I want to upgrade the latest version, and I'm really out of touch with a lot of the new features. We have upgraded. We're on 10.1, but we've never upgraded many of the clients. So I really want to get a feel. You just treat me like a puppy, really, because I know the product, I know the core product, but I don't know all of the new features. And I can see a huge amount of new features. So
Right, there are.
Understand all. That's why I'm on the seminar. I want to understand all these features. I was hoping to have upgraded the server last weekend, but that didn't happen for me. I've been busy, but okay. So really, that's where I am. I want to upgrade the server, get the client software right, get the custom installers right. So this has just come at the right time for me, so that I can actually get all that right, and then go to press, as it were.
Excellent. Okay, then let's make that happen for you.
Okay.
Gautam, let's start
Yes.
out with installing the RBS. Let's start out with the server software.
Okay. Can you hear me fine, Paul?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. I already have the RBS server exe on my desktop, so I'm going to start the installation. This is the RBS server software that I'm installing right now. You can install the RBS server software under the default directory, which is C program files RBS server, or you can click on the change button here and redirect it to a different drive if you want to. Okay, the server software requires a set of ports to be open on your router firewall. If you have a router, it tells you which ports are required. The basic ports.
Sorry, could I just ask about the ports? There was one question I had.
Sure, go ahead.
I can't remember what ports we've got open. We've obviously got an installation already. Will we need to change the ports?
If you already have it set up, you don't have to. You don't have to change it. If you already have it set up to use a particular set of data ports, you can continue to use it. We just changed the data port range recently to 29,001 to 29,100. We just chose a higher range because just because other software might be using anything in the range from 1024 to 2048. That used to be the range previously. But it's okay to continue with what you have right now. The command port is 2774.
Test one.
Yep.
2774.
Sounds like we've got Jim now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, Jim, I can hear
Wonderful.
Oh, very good, thank you.
you. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The command port that the server uses is 2774. 2774 is the registered port for our software. And the data port range is 29,001 to 29,100.
What we should probably mention right now is that the software that we're looking at is not the software that you have yet. That screen that we saw is a function of 10.1.68, which is the next release. So you guys are actually getting a preview of what's coming out.
All right, very good. Can I have a quick question as well? This is Jim.
Hey,
Yes.
Jim.
On those ports, the 29,001, I know you said you did not have to change them if they were already installed.
Mm-hmm.
But so the clients they don't see that at all? Is that
No, the
correct?
clients don't see that at all. The server is the one that sends back the client the data port range.
Okay.
So the clients doesn't have to know anything.
Right. So if we make that change, we don't have to do anything with our clients.
Right, you don't have to do anything with your clients.
Very good. All right, thank you.
I'm going to activate this server with the serial number. So, okay, it says activation successful. So once the activation is done, okay, I'm not going to reboot this computer. So I'm just going to click on finish.
Normally what happens here is the RBS server itself starts, but obviously there was a DLL in use when he installed this, and so he's going to have to
I think I'm
can't
going to
restart his computer because his is the master computer for this webinar. So what Gautam's doing right now is trying to fix this without rebooting. Yeah,
That sounds like you're having one of my days.
Well, while we're trying to recover from this embarrassment, does anybody have any? Jim, we already spoke with Paul, and he filled us in a little about where he is with his business and what he needs. Will you do the same now?
Yes, currently I got 16 clients, or we have 16 clients, and we're just kind of like in a holding pattern. I'm helping the gentleman who owns it, and I'm just trying to learn as much. This is my second job, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can so that hopefully by the end of this year or sometime during next year, I'll be able to do this full time and really get after it to get a lot of clients coming.
Okay, and so are you technical?
Probably to a bad extent, yes.
And what will be your function in the company?
Pretty much all of it eventually. I mean, start out mostly will be setup and making sure everything's working as planned.
Okay, so what we can do for you today then is probably give you a good overview of the software and how to install it this time. And
Right.
Now you're with
Yeah.
us for the next 2 days as well, I think.
Correct, and then next week also. So.
Okay, so all right,
Okay.
that's good. So I know how to I know how to do that. So go ahead, Gautam.
Okay. The server is up and running now. The version that you're seeing right now is 10.1.68. The current public release is 10.1.65. The version that you're seeing right now is due in a couple of weeks. This version is 10.1.68. This is the About screen of the RBS Manager. You can click on Help and About, and it gives you your license information, basically your serial number, your username, and it tells you when your maintenance expires, and it tells you all the features that you have purchased. The first thing to do after you install the server is to go under Tools and Properties and identify the ports that are being used by the software. The command port is usually 2774, and we recommend using 2774 because that's the registered port for our software. So on your router, you need to set up a port forwarding rule, and the first rule will be to open port 2774, and it's TCP port, and you need to forward it to the internal IP address of this machine. You can see the internal IP address displayed on the RBS server window. In this case, it's 192.168.50.211. So on your router, you open the port 2774, forward it to this internal IP address. And the second rule will be to open the data port range, which is 29,001 to 29,100. So these are like 100 data ports. You can change this data port range. You can increase this range depending on number of clients you have. But the rule of thumb is at least 3 data ports per simultaneous connection. So if you have 10 clients that are going to be backing up to your server at the same time, you at least require 30 data ports. So it's 3 times the number of clients you have. So based on that, you can increase this range. All these ports are again TCP ports. So once you open the ports, the next thing would be to go to Tools, and we have a Test RBS Server option. This used to be part of the website. I mean, you have to go to the website and do the test from there. But in this version, we included it as a menu option. So if you click on Test RBS Server, it's going to connect to our test server, which basically communicates to your RBS server and does a command port and data ports test. This is going to fail because my system is not set up for the router. But once you have the ports open, you'll see that you'll get 2 green check marks for the server function and for the router firewall.
What this has done is, what this does is it makes a call out to we have a virtual client, a statistically perfect client running in one of our servers here at the data center. So what this menu choice does is it calls out to that client and orders a backup and a restore from outside your network, and that verifies that your software is installed properly and that your firewall and router are properly configured. And if it finds any problems, then it'll tell you, it'll make suggestions about what to do about it. Now this, so far, everything we're doing only has to be done once, and this is only on the server side. So the client's much easier to install than this.
Okay. Coming back to the properties, if your server is set up correctly, you'll see the public IP detected, and it shows your public IP address here. And also the server root folder by default is CRBS. If you wish to change your root directory or the root folder is where all your clients' backups will reside. You have to first stop the RBS server. So you click on the stop button, and once the server is stopped, you can go back to Tools, Properties, and you'll be able to change the server root folder. So if you have an external NAS drive or a TerraStation or an external drive where you want to store the client's data, you can change it here. So that's the root folder. The client build folder will remain the same. It's C program files RBS server client. In most cases, you shouldn't have to change this. The locator refresh rate is a number of minutes. Right now, the interval is 10 minutes. What that means is the RBS locator refreshes every 10 minutes. So 10 is the recommended value. You can keep it at that. Log detailed transactions, we recommend turning this off just because it just creates a log of every file that gets transferred to the server, and it basically bloats your server's database. Unless you're debugging a particular issue or you need some detailed transaction logs for auditing or some other purpose, you can turn on this log. But we recommend turning it off by default. Now going to the manager preferences, these are some manager preferences that you can set. These are all set to defaults. The log folder, by default, it goes to the server's application directory, which is C, program files, RBS server. The log level, there are 3 levels of log that you can set. By default, it's set to standard. Detail, this gives you a little bit more information. Verbose gives you more information. So I would say set it to detailed, so you'll have a bit more information on how many files are backed up and more about when the client is logged in and when he has logged out and such information. Auto start should always be set to on. I mean, what that means is whenever the RBS manager starts, it will start the server automatically. If you don't turn it, if you don't set this option, you have to manually start the server. So auto start should be selected. Services mode is when you want to install the RBS server as a Windows service. So if you select this option, it will install the RBS server as a service. If you say yes to it, it says the service is installed now. So once the service is installed, you can close both the manager and server. You can then go to the services panel, and the service is listed as RBS server. So you'll see the RBS server service here, and all you have to do is right click on it and click on start, and that basically starts the server. The server is now running. In services mode, you don't have to be logged into your server all the time, so you can log off the system and the server will still be active. And you can look at the manager if you need to. The manager need not be running at all times. So only if you have to change something, set up a client or build an installer or change some properties, you can start the server from your desktop shortcut. Going back to the preferences, there is an option called automatic web updates. Web updates, whenever the server starts, it checks with our server and basically tells you if you're on the latest version. If there is a newer version available, it will notify you that there is a new upgrade. It also notifies you if your maintenance is due, or if you're run out of maintenance, it'll give you reminders saying your maintenance is going to expire in 30 days. And it also tells you a way to get the upgrades and takes you to the upgrades page. So that's the automatic web upgrade. The startup screen is basically how you want to start up the monitor. By default, it is set to monitor. So if you want to start up in accounts, so when you start the manager, it automatically goes to the accounts or to the reporter section. Show passwords is basically if you want to display the passwords in clear text when you edit a user account. Include username in monitor reports is basically it includes the username in whenever you generate a report on the server. So that's basically the manager preferences. There's not many options you might have to change here. The main thing would be the root folder and the data ports.
Any questions about any of this so far?
None here.
No, that's all good for me.
Okay. So let's move on to customizing the email notifications. If you go to get to the email notifications, you have to click on Tools and Email Notifications. I think it does require a restart. Let me try something here. Hold on 1 second.
While you're doing that, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Please
sure.
go ahead.
On your email notifications, do you have any plans in the future to change to HTML format for emails, or?
Well, they are in HTML format.
Well, okay.
So sure, you can do them in HTML right now. They do. They are sent in HTML format. That is, they generate the HTML header. But what we've done for our examples is we've used the pre-formatted text tag to put around the examples that we use, which makes it look like text while it's really not. So you can put tables you can use any HTML construct in those.
Just put them in the INI files. Aren't they INI files, the templates?
There used to be. There's
Okay.
an editor. There's an editor now.
Okay, I see. I'm not on 6.5 yet, so I guess.
But yeah, that's how you do it. And when he gets this fixed, and we'll show you how to do that. Paul, there's been, let's see, last time you saw this, I think there were 4 email notifications. We've added one for missed backup, which people were asking for a long, long time. And that gets scheduled, usually runs, I think the default is 10 o'clock a.m. in the morning local time. And at that time it runs a process that searches to see who was supposed to back up last night but didn't, and it sends out an email.
Yeah, one email notification I thought about was deleted files. I know we haven't come to that bit yet, but is there some way of notifying users they've deleted files off the server? Or
This it's absolutely something that we're considering, especially with your regulations and our new regulations regarding auditing of backups. The auditors want to know when a file has been deleted, and in some cases proof that it's been deleted. So while we don't have that yet, it's on the very short list of future modifications.
Okay, it's cool. He's good, this boy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very good at this.
Let's see.
You know what, Gautam? If you
Yes.
want to switch, if you want to transfer control to me, I've got that up on my screen right now.
Okay.
And let's see how you do that. I haven't the slightest idea. Wait a minute. Yes, I do. You've got a console there somewhere that says give.
Change presenter.
Yeah, change presenter. Oh, but wait, we're both logged in as the same name, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, then. You might want to try that. Let's see if it works. And then
Okay.
while you're trying to fix this issue, then I can go. Okay, it looks like it's worked.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So let's see. Right now I've got email notifications on screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, super. All right. And Gautam, can you see that as well?
Yes.
Okay. This is how we customize the email notifications. There are 3 tabs here. The first is for the mail server. This is where you put in your mail server information. Ours is on a strange port number here, and the timeout. And then if it requires authentication, you can do this. The next is the email notifications. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 of these that you can edit. You have to enable them. First, let's do this. This is the email that gets sent for a successful backup notification, if there's a successful backup. Your choices to send this email to are the user's email, the account manager's email address. That's the email address associated with the account group that this user's in. Or you can type one in. In this case, you can just do this. You can use a from address, a carbon copy. You can blind carbon copy it, and you can use a subject here. The subject would be successful email. Many people don't want to attach the log to the email. The log is attached as a standard zip file that can be decompressed with PKZip or WinZip. The problem with that is it can get big and it sometimes flags, it sometimes goes into the junk. So, decide one way or another whether you want to attach it or not. Here's how you can edit the template. Now, this is HTML, so I've put this PRE tag around here which says to HTML, it says display this as pre-formatted text. So on a user's screen, this is going to look just like text, although it really isn't. If you take these tags out, then it's HTML, and this text will be displayed in the default text style of the user. You can also include images equals whatever the image is. And you can also do tables if you want. All kinds of things here. The HTML header doesn't display on here, but it is sent. I think just the header, no meta tags. But without the header, you can also include meta tags or anything that you want in here. On this screen, there are these little variables that you can use. And they're replaced at the time the email is sent with data. So this is the date, and this is the current time. So when this email is sent, this is replaced with the current date, and this is replaced with the current time. Let me move to a different screen you can't see here and pick up the documentation for this so I can make sure I do it all right. Got him? How are you doing over there?
Good.
Okay.
I'm still not able to get... can I reboot my computer while you're doing that?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't think I'd try it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I'm looking up the email. Let's see. I want to tell you about all of these variables that you could use in here. There we go, email notifications. Okay, these variables are date and time, and this is status. This is completed or failure, or whatever the status of the email is. Username is the username of the user who logged in. The set name is the name of the backup set. The set ID, you normally wouldn't want to use that. That's never displayed to your customer, and I think it might be a little confusing. So I'd take that out if I were you. The number of files transferred is exactly what it says. It's the number of files that were backed up. The size of the byte of the files is here in bytes, and that can get to be a really long number. Disk space is the amount of drive space used by this user on your RBS server. And the percentage of quota used, the quota is the percentage of disk space quota used. So this will say 50% or 20% or whatever you want to use. Let's see, Gautam, are there any more? It seems to me like I've missed one or two.
No, that's about it.
Yeah, okay. Let me give you an example of, let me show you an example of an HTML email. Okay, here you have an HTML email. I don't think I needed to put that header in there. But this will generate, when you send this out, it generates, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this I just struck on screen here?
Yep.
Okay, it generates this this email notification right here, which is HTML.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. To finish this, you just type. I'm not going to save these. Okay. All right. That was the successful backup notification. There's also a failed backup notification that's sent when a failure happens. Failed backup notification is sent in case there's an internet disconnect or any file within the backup was unable to be backed up. And this is one case where you might want to attach the log. Some service providers don't want this to go to the user. Rather, they want this to go to themselves or to the administrator so that they can have a look at the log. In some cases, a failed backup can be as simple as the user selected the ntusers.dat file and it failed to back it up. Well, of course, it's not going to back that file up. So that's not a critical failure, and they don't want to alarm the users. But that's for you to decide. Here's the new one that Paul hasn't seen. It's the missed backup notification. This one says your computer missed the backup session noted below, and the most common reason is that the computer was off. And this is the time scheduled for this to run. This is a notification that runs in batch all at one time. It notifies all the users at once. So the scheduled time to run should be set to sometime during your morning when most of your backups have been done. This will run once every 24 hours at this time. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
No, that's good. That's good.
All righty. An overquoted notification is when the user, this is also scheduled to go at 10 a.m. or any other time. The overquoted notification tells your user that he's over his disk space quota on the server. You can have this say, please phone us, we'll upgrade your account, or please delete some of your files. Most of our service providers also have this CC'd to themselves. Or BCC to themselves, because this overquoted notification affects your income. Since you're charging for storage space, you need something to tell you that this user needs to be upgraded to a different account, or that there needs to be some kind of contact with that user. So this is the case where I suggest you CC it yourself. A new user notification is used with the ARS, the automatic. What's the thing called, Gautam?
The automatic which one?
The ARS, Automatic Registration System.
Right.
The ARS and also the Registration Wizard, which we're going to get to later this week. Whenever a new user is added to your service through either the ARS or the Registration Wizard, it can send an email to you. So you'll notice. Well, you can also send one to the user. So in this case, the new user notification would say, welcome to our service. Here's, you wouldn't want it to say this. In fact, I don't like this template. I'm going to change this. This should be a letter to the user, and it should say, thanks for signing up with Safe Data. Here's our telephone number. A representative will call you soon. And then I would also carbon copy that or BCC it to myself, so I know that somebody has signed up now.
Yeah, those are really, really useful.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Okay, notification log. This is also new. The notification log shows who's been notified, which kind of notifications have been sent out. So if you come in the morning, you want to look at this. You want to see who has failed or who has been successful. Actually, you can just click failed, and it'll show you everything that you need to work on. You've got to go find out why these guys failed, how many people signed up overnight. Have a look at that one, or for any period. Any questions about any of that? That's it for the email notifications.
There is another. You can also customize the subject. If you go back to the subject row, let
me give you control.
Okay.
There you go. You should have it now.
Okay. For each of these notifications, you can customize the subject, and the subject can accept some macros. The macros are, for example, if you want to include first name, you can type in %F, and that macro will be replaced by the first name of the user. For example, for new user sign up, you can say thanks for signing up, let's say Mr. %F and %L. Those macros, %F and %L, will be replaced by the first and last name automatically. To see a list of macros that are supported, you can go to the help file. Do you have the help file open, Rob? Okay. Okay, I don't think it's in the documentation. We need to add that, Rob. Are you still there?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yeah, that's one of the things we discovered during the last seminar.
Yeah.
This hasn't been updated yet.
Okay. So yeah, I
Is
can.
it possible to get a list of those emailed out or something, or so that gets in there?
It's on
Oh,
the
sure.
It's on the website in one of the articles. If you search for
There it is?
macros, yeah, if you search for macros on our website, you will find it.
Very good.
Yeah, but the macros are like %F, %L for last name, %U for username, %E for email, %A for account group, C for company. So there's a list of about 8 or 9 macros that you can use in the subject line. So those will be replaced by the corresponding text when it sends out an email. I think we're done with the email notifications. Do you have any questions?
I'm good at the moment.
No, that's good.
Okay. Rob, do you want to switch over the presentation to me?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Okay, you should have it now.
Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and build a basic client installer. To build an installer, you have to first go to Tools and Customize Client Installer. This Customize Client Installer tool allows you to build installers and fully customize, brand it with your logos and images, and brand it with your company name. Pre-configure backup sets, schedules, and all sorts of things. I mean, you can pre-customize almost every option that's in the client software and then be able to build custom installers. In this session, we're just going to cover the basic customization. I think in tomorrow's session, we're going to go in detail about all the customizations that you can do. As far as the basic customization is concerned, all you have to do is deal with the basic settings tab. That's the first tab here. You shouldn't, this is the client installer folder. What that means is in this location, which is C program files, RBS server client, that client folder has all the customization files and the installer files for the client. So basically you're customizing everything under the client folder. The main thing is the server's IP address. For internal clients, let's say you want to install a client internally on the same network, you can use the internal IP address of the RBS server. If it's on the same machine, you can use the loopback address. In most cases, you'll be having clients outside your network, in which case you can use the public IP address, or you can use your own DNS name if you have one, or you can use the server locator. To use the server locator, you can check this box called Use Server Locator. It automatically fills up the server locator address. In this case, the server locator address is nothing but your serial number and then a .ddns.rbsnet.net. Everyone is assigned a server locator address, and the server locator service comes with either basic or priority support. So as long as you have support with us, you get this service. For now, I'm going to put it at the loopback address because I'm going to install a client on the same system. Make sure the port number is correct, which is the command port for your RBS server. By default, it points to the correct port, so you shouldn't have to change that. The override password, the admin override password is used to change certain options on the client side. Only you as an administrator can override some of the settings on the client side. By default, it's admin with a capital A, but I would recommend changing it to something more secure. And if you have more than one account group, you have to build an installer for each account group separately. So for right now, we only have one account group. So I'm going to just select that house account. And the default connection type, in most cases, it's LAN. But if you have a dial-up customer who uses AOL or MSN dial-up or something, you can select dial-up. Modem to modem, it's there, but I'm not sure if anyone uses that, but that option is available too. If it's modem to modem, you'll have to specify the dial-up networking information, which is the IP address, the done login, the dial-up number, and all that. In most cases, everybody uses LAN, so LAN is the default. So these are the basic things: the RBS server's IP address, the port number, the override password, and the account group. Once you make sure everything is set correctly, just click on Apply and say yes to continue. And it says the distribution database has been initialized. Say OK to that. Once you're done with it, you can click on the Build Client Installer option down at the bottom, and it opens up this Create Installer form. Now there are two ways to build an installer. Let's say you want to distribute a CD. You want to send out a CD to the end user so he can install it. In that case, you can choose the first option, which is copy to folder. So let's create a new folder on the desktop. Let's call it client CD. Say OK, and click on copy to folder. So now the client installation files have been copied to the new folder that you created on the desktop. So if you open the desktop folder, client CD, you'll see all the client installer files here. Now if you have a CD burning software, you can burn the contents of this folder to a CD, and that becomes your client CD. So when the client plugs the CD in, it automatically runs the setup file and starts the installation. So that's one way of distributing the client installer. The second way is to build a self-extracting executable, which creates one exe file that you can put on your website and have your clients download it from a website or from your FTP server. So you give it an executable name. Let's call it client exe installer. If you have a code signing certificate from Verizon or someone else who provides a code signing certificate, you can include that certificate and you can digitally sign this exe. That way, when the clients execute the exe installer, they won't get a pop-up saying there is no certificate, do you wish to continue? So if you purchase a code signing certificate, you can digitally sign the installer. Let's copy the installer to the desktop. And you can also customize the exe installer with your own icon file. The icon size should be 32 by 32 pixels. Right now, I'm just going to use the default. And once you're ready, click on Make exe, and it will create a self-extracting executable. And it's done. You'll see this exe on the desktop. The size is about 25 megs approximately. So you can now upload this particular file to your web server and have a link on your website so clients can download it.
Are there any questions so far? That's a lot of information.
So what we've done that before.
Okay, so what we've done is just the very basic of customization, just the least necessary in order to get the client to connect to the server. There's an awful lot more we're going to cover, but we've created this exe file just to show you how the simplest step.
Okay, the way the client communicates to the server or authenticates to the server is using the server's public IP address and the port number. That's how the client is the one that always calls out to the server. So using the server's IP address, it communicates on the port 2774 and calls out to the server. Once the server receives a signal from the client, it sends back a command saying, send me the login information. For a client to log in, it requires a username, a password, and also the account group. Let's go ahead and create a user account. Now this is the account section on the server. On the left-hand side is where you define the account groups. On the right-hand side is the actual user accounts. Now the difference between account group and user account is basically account group is just for accounting purposes. You can have all clients under one account group called house account, or if you have different plans. For example, if you sell 3 different plans, you can create 3 different account groups for each plan, and the users for that plan will be listed under that account group. So it makes it easier for you to generate reports and for billing and other purposes. Or if you have a company, for example, you have a company and they have 5 computers, so you'll have 5 user accounts just for that company. So in that case, you would create a new account group. You can call it, let's say, company X, for example. You create a new account group for that company. Now, in this new release, we also have new options where you can define root directory based on account group. Let's say you want this particular account group to back up to a different location. Now, this option is it's optional. If you want, you can choose this. If you don't, it will go back to the original root directory location. But if you want to differentiate, I have different root directories based on account group, you can do that. You can also set assign default quota. For example, you can say this account group is limited to 50 GB. So for each user account that gets created under this group, it automatically creates a quota of 50 GB for those users. These 2 options, root directory and default quota, is new with this release 10.1.68. It's not available in the current release. Okay, so now you've created an account group for a company X. So you can now create users under that company. Let's say user 1, for example. And it automatically assigns the 50 GB quota because that's the default that we specified. And let's give the password as the same. The username password is case sensitive, so if you're typing it in mixed case, you have to make sure that you're giving the customer the right username password. It's case sensitive. Everything else, the contact information is optional. So I'm just going to save it. So that's the user account, and his root directory is under CRBS user, and the account group is the account group 2 in this case. Any questions with account group and user?
No.
Okay. So let's go ahead and install the client software. So the clients will download this exe file from your website or from your FTP server. All they have to do is double click on this installer, and it starts the installation process. Now we'll cover customizing the installer screens, all these captions like where it says remote backup installation wizard. All that can be customized with your company name, and the text, the welcome text, can be changed as well. We'll cover that tomorrow on how we can customize the installer itself. And also, this is our license agreement. You can also include your own license agreement, and that will be presented after our license agreement. So the user has to agree to 2 license agreements. So if you have a license agreement that you want to present to users, you can include that as well. The default folder for the client is C program files remote backup. You can also customize this. We'll cover this tomorrow. You can default this to C program files secure data backup. If your company name is secure data, you can default the destination folder to C program files secure data. So you can customize that as well. Now the software is capable of backing up open files. Now this question is customizable as well. You can present the user for a choice to if he wants to install open files. If he says yes, it will require a reboot. but you can also default the client installer to not ask this question and automatically install it. I'm going to say no to this, and it will also ask you, do you want to install the client as a Windows service? You can also customize this particular question. You can set it to yes by default or no to install it in application mode, or you can prompt the question. There are three choices. So now the client is installed, and the first screen that he sees is the new registration screen. Since this is a new registration, you select the new registration, and it prompts the user to enter the username and password. So let's provide the username and password for the account we just created, which is user1. User1 is the password. Clicking on register. The next thing that's going to prompt the user is for selecting the encryption key and method. There are 6 different encryption methods. You can always default it. By default, the software defaults to Blowfish, which is the most secure. It's 448-bit encryption, and it's also the fastest encryption method available. So I would recommend using Blowfish, but it's up to the end user or the company you're installing it for. Some banks might require triple DES or AES 256. Some other companies might require to use the AES encryption or triple DES. So it's up to the end user, but it always defaults to whatever you select when you build a customized client installer. There is an option to choose the default encryption method. There are 2 ways to create an encryption key. You can type in your own secret password that the user can remember, and that becomes his encryption key. Or you can also tell the software to generate a key for you. So if you click on Generate Key button, since this is Blowfish, Blowfish is variable. You can create up to 1 to 56 characters. So if you say 32, it will create a encryption key which is 32 characters in length. So as you can see, it's more secure since the software is generating one. So the user can either type it in, or you can click on the generate key option and the software will generate one for him. So once you create the encryption key and apply, it will prompt the user to make a key file. Now the key file is what is required in case of a disaster. So it's very important that the user creates the key file and saves it in a location that he can get to in case the system is stolen or if a system crashes. The key file is what is required for disaster recovery. Now the software prompts you to create this key file, but it also prompts you to take a printout of the information too. Let's say let's store this key file locally first, and it also gives you an option to take a printout of the encryption key too. So you can print this and it takes a printout of the encryption key details, so he'll have a hard copy of the information as well. So these are the key files that we just created. Now the user can store these files online someplace or burn it to a CD and put it in a secure location. But either the soft copy, which are the key files, or the printout that we just saw the printout form, either of that is enough to do a disaster recovery. Any questions about the key file?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's good. Okay. The client has 2 interfaces. The one you're looking at is the advanced interface. There is also a new simple interface that will come to next. Let's go ahead and go through the advanced interface now. This is the interface that you've been used to seeing since version 8, I believe. So most of them are familiar with this interface. The software always ships with 2 default backup sets. You can choose to program either of these backup sets, or you can create your own backup set if you want to. Let's go ahead and create a new backup set. So let's call it daily backup. And once you create a new backup set, it comes up with the scheduler option. There are 4 different backup types, incremental, differential, full, and bit backup. Now the first three methods, incremental, differential, and full, they're at the file level, meaning every time a backup happens, the entire file is transmitted to the server. Now there is a fourth option called bit backup. It's called a bit backup or a partial file backup, meaning only the bit changes within the file gets transferred to the server. So depending on how you want to set up for a client, you can choose from doing either an incremental backup or you can choose to do bit backup. Now bit backup requires a local store, and the local store requirement is at least 1.5 times the original data size. So let's say you come up with a customer and he has like 10 GB of data that he wants to back up. And you want to use bit backup, then the local store for bit backup requires at least 15 GB of free space. The local store, the reason for the local store is when you do a bit backup, it initially does a full copy of all the files to its local store, which resides on the client side. And that's like a permanent store for bit backup. It will always be there. So when you do a first backup using bit backup, it will do a copy of all the files to the local store, and then it starts preparing files, encrypting, compressing, and transfers the file to the server. So the first time it runs, it does a full backup. So there is no need to do a first full. The first backup with bit backup will do a full. Initially it does copy all the files to the local store and then the full files to the server. But from there on, whenever a file changes, it will only create a patch file. A patch file is nothing but the bit changes. It does a comparison by comparing the locally stored copy with the original copy, and it creates a patch file. And that patch file is basically the bit changes or the new changes that happen to the file. And that patch file also gets stored locally and then gets transmitted to the server as well. So one advantage of using bit backup is the storage on the server is very less. The amount of time it takes to backup is very less because you're only backing up the bit changes. And also you maintain a local store as well. So when you do a restore from the client, it knows to look at the local store itself because the latest version of all files is already on the client side. So restores are very quick as well. So those are the advantages of using bit backup.
Could I just ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay. Bit backup I could store presumably to a NAS drive, a network attached drive, or
Yes.
a drive off the system.
Yeah, you can. The bit backup local store can reside on a map drive or an external drive or a NAS device. So it can reside any place.
And the second question was about whether to use archive bit or whether to use date time. For bit backup.
Well, I would recommend using archive bit, but it depends. If let's say the client is using some other software solution like a tape backup, then you might want to switch to modified date and time. But if he's not using any other backup software, then always use archive bit.
Yes. Where will I find the to change from archive to date time?
Okay, on the client, you have to go to Options, Preferences, and you double-click on this lock. You enter your admin override password, which is admin with a capital A, and then you click on OK, and you come back and select the Schedule Backup Schedule. And down at the bottom here, you'll see File Selection. Now there is another file selection method which came out with 10.1.65.
We lost you for about 5 seconds there.
Oh, okay.
This is something that you typically want to do during the process of customization. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So what we're showing you right now is how to do it after this client software has already been installed. Typically, you do this during the customization process, and you'd never see this screen at all.
So the user can't change this.
Right. The user cannot change it. Only you as an administrator can change these settings on the client side.
Okay.
On the server, let's go back to Tools. I'll quickly show you where it is. in the Customize Client Installer, you click on the backup sets. You select which backup set you want to customize. Let's say default. That's the scheduler. And if you go to Purge, Retention, and Advanced Options, you'll see file selection in here. So you can default it to archive bit. You can use modified date and time, or there is a new selection method called fast pick that was introduced a couple of months ago. Let me tell you about fast pick. I mean, fast pick kind of works like modified date and time, but the way it works is the first time it does a full backup. So if you have fast pick, it always does a first full backup of all the files. But then from the next backup onwards, it relies on the last backup's last backup's date and time. Let's say the last backup happened yesterday at 10 p.m. So that will be the criteria for fast pick. So it will select files only if the modified date and time or the created date and time of the files that it is scanning, it is greater than the last backup's date and time. So it will select files based on the previous backup's date and time. So the selection is very quick, and that's why the name is called fast pick. Versus modified date and time, it kind of also works the same way, but modified date and time has to look at the database, the client's database, and compares the client's database or the stored value in the database versus the actual file's modified date and time. So it's kind of slower. The modified date and time is at least 2 or 3 times slower to scan files than you would see for archive bit or fast pick. I would recommend modified date and time if the number of files that you're backing up using a backup set is less than 10,000. But if it's more than 10,000, I would recommend using archive bit or fast pick. Just because the scanning time increases with the modified date and time. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yes, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, let's go back to the scheduler. So with bit backup, if let's say you want to do bit backup, with bit backup you have to select another option which is called roll forward threshold. Now the way the bit backup works is, let's take an example of a 100 KB document file. Let's say it's just one Word document and it's 100 KB in size. So the first backup that you run, it's going to back up 100 KB of the file to the local store, and it also sends the 100 KB file to the server. So it's like a full backup the first time it runs. So let's say you add 10 KB of changes to the document file. And when you do a bit backup again, now it's going to create a patch file which is only 10 KB or 11 KB with some overhead. So that 11 KB file is also stored locally, and that file is sent to the server. Now let's say on the third day you add another 10 KB of changes to the same Word document. And if you do a bit backup now, it won't create a 10 KB of patch file. It will create a 20 KB patch file. The reason why it will do that is it's because the patches accumulator. So it keeps growing in size. So at some point you have to tell the client to do a roll forward. Roll forward meaning it's going to roll forward and do a full or resend the entire file again. So that's the roll forward threshold. There are 2 options that you can set. You can set it by roll forward threshold, and you can set it to a particular number. Let's say if you set it to 10, what that means is it will do 10 bit backups, and on the 11th backup it will send the entire file again to the server. You can also set it by threshold size. So if you uncheck the roll forward threshold, you'll see this get highlighted, which is the threshold size, and you can set it to 50 or 75%. I would recommend using threshold size. I think that's the more used option for bit backup. So what that means is if the patch file reaches 50% of the original file size, then it triggers the roll forward and it sends the full file again during the next backup. So when you define bit backup, you have to make sure you define the threshold or the roll forward threshold correctly. And I would recommend going with threshold size, which is 50 or 75% is fine. Any questions on bit backup?
Yeah, that's cool.
Not
Okay.
at this time.
Okay. The schedule, you can set daily, weekly, monthly, or once only, or on demand. On demand meaning it will only work if you start the backup manually. Most commonly, everybody chooses a daily backup, and you can start at a particular time, let's say at 11:30. Attempt window is, let's say, 8 hours. What that means is the backup is scheduled to start at 11:30. Let's say your server is offline or the internet or the network is disconnected. The client will continue to attempt to start a backup for the next 8 hours, and after that it will just quit. Now this attempt window can also be turned into a backup window, meaning it can stop a backup after 8 hours. But there is a registry tweak for that. I'll just show you real quickly what it is. It's in the documentation as well, but if you go to the registry branch for our software is Quantum Tech Inc. It's HKey Local Machines Software, Quantum Tech Inc., the client remote backup and settings. Now in this settings, you can create a key called set window. Now if you set this value to true, what that will do is it will convert this attempt window to an actual backup window. So since the set window in the registry key is true, the backup will stop after 8 hours. So it will start transferring at 11:30 p.m. But if it goes beyond 8 hours, the client will gracefully finish the session because it's been 8 hours and quit the session properly. So the remaining files will be backed up during the next session that happens the next day. So if you want to actually stop a particular backup after X amount of hours, you can set that registry key called set window to true. And then the attempt window acts like a backup window. That's the scheduler interface. You can also select backup and log off, which means after the backup it will log off the machine, or you can shut down the machine if you want to. And we recommend using the Windows Task Scheduler. So when you select the box to use the Windows Task Scheduler, it will ask you to enter. You can either select the logged in users or the administrator username and password, or you can set it to the local system account. If you set it to the local system account, it will run as a background process, so there won't be any visible progress window or anything on the desktop, so you won't be able to see anything. I would recommend using system account just so it doesn't interfere with the normal operations of the user. So it runs as a background process. But you can also set it to the administrator account if you want to. So you can give it the administrator username and password. If it's a laptop, you can set it to, there are some options for power management. And this is basically for laptops. So once you set this, click on apply and close. Now the software would have created a Windows task schedule job for you automatically. So if you go under schedule task under Windows, you'll see that it created a Windows schedule task for you. So Windows scheduler will take care of launching the backup at the scheduled time, and it will finish the backup as a background because we set it to local system account. And we recommend using the Windows scheduler just because users might just close the system tray application, and in some cases some local firewalls might interfere with the system tray scheduler, so we always recommend using the task scheduler. Now once you schedule it using task scheduler, nothing needs to be running even in the system tray. You can close the system tray and the schedule backup will still happen, so nothing needs to be running as far as the client software is concerned. So if you want to manage something, you can double click on the desktop shortcut and you can manage or change any options if you want to. Any questions about scheduling?
No.
Okay.
Will the schedule still run if it's not a service?
Yeah, it'll still run.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you don't have to have any service running or anything running in the system tray. Yeah, actually you don't have to have it running as a Windows service at all. You can just set it to run in application mode, but as long as you're using the task scheduler, you don't have to have anything running. Even the service need not be installed.
Great.
So once you set up the schedule, you can go ahead and make some selections. Click on all the folders. One thing I would recommend is not selecting entire drives, because for one thing, it's going to use up a lot of your storage on your server. It's going to take a long time to finish the backup. And really, there is no need to back up the entire C drive. because Windows still has to be reinstalled through a CD, so you can't back up the entire operating system. So you'll have to basically select files and data that are critical for the end user. So this is where you basically communicate to the end user and identify where he stores all his data. Like if he stores all his data under My Documents, you can select the My Documents folder for that user. If he has a QuickBooks application, you can go to the QuickBooks under Program Files and select that folder for backup. If he has a SQL database, you can select the SQL. We have built-in agents for SQL and system state. Right now on this machine, I have SQL installed, so you can see all the databases that SQL has. So you can right-click and backup whichever databases you want to backup with SQL. If there was,
I thought we could
Yeah.
only back up one SQL database per job.
yeah,
Is that not true?
per instance, yeah. Like if you have 2 instances of SQL Server, you have to create another backup set for the second instance, and then configure the second instance with the second backup set. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have 2 instances, you'll have to define 2 backup sets. Similarly, you'll see Active Directory. If it is a server operating system, you'll see Active Directory. And we also have a built-in agent for SharePoint. So if there was a SharePoint server installed, you'll see a SharePoint agent here that you can select. And similarly for Exchange too.
Now, I understand that there's a way to exclude certain files
Yes.
from backup.
That's part of
Like
the
Windows.
Yeah, you can do that. That's part of the customized client installer. If you go back to the backup sets, and let's say that's again per backup set, so you'll have to do it per backup set. So let's say you select the default backup set, and you'll see a tab called Backup Exclusions. This is where you define wildcards and folder exclusions and virtual exclusions. So let's go with virtual exclusions. You can check all these folders like Windows folder, Internet Cache folder. I would recommend selecting all of these. Cookies, history, you don't need these to be backed up. Application data, all these can. So if you select and click on update, it will ask you a question. Do you want to default these for new backup sets that get created on the client? Say yes. And that gets applied to new backup sets too on the client. So once you have this pre-selected, the end user won't even see these folders in the client interface. So if he goes to make file selections, and if you excluded this Windows directory, he won't be able to right-click on Windows, or he won't even see Windows actually in the interface. And you can do it on the client side too. Let me do it on the client side. Let's close this. If you go to the admin password, you click on admin options, and you have edit backup exclusions here. So let's say I'm going to select all of these here, cookies, folder, and everything. The system folder too, and click on update. And you can also include wildcard exclusions, like let's say I don't want to backup .sys file, I don't want to backup .tmp files.
Yeah, this is good because
Yeah.
it's very difficult sometimes to create backup job sets with
Right.
where you don't want to back up JPEG files
Yeah.
or image files.
Yeah, you can define, you can do all that here. And
Yeah.
whatever exclusions you give here, let's say I've excluded .sys and .tmp files, and you won't even see .sys
Sorry, did you separate that with a comma?
semicolon.
Semicolon.
Yeah, it's a semicolon. There are different formats actually. The formats are best explained on the server side. If you go back to the customized client installer, let's select the backup exclusions tab again. There is F1 help here. If you click on F1, that tells you all the formats for the wildcard file exclusions. There are 4 different formats. Similarly for folder exclusions, if you click on F1 for help, it will give you all the formats that are available for folder exclusions. And also for the virtual folders, it gives you an explanation on what those virtual folders mean. So go through that on the server side in the customized client installer.
Is that just in this new version, or is that on the current version as well?
It's in the 10.1.65, the current version
Okay.
too. Yeah, it's
I
part of
have
it.
not got there.
Okay. So let's say we've selected all this and clicked on update. You'll have to restart the client once to make these changes take into effect. So once you restart, now if you expand C drive, you'll see that I don't have Windows anymore to select. And if you drill down to documents and settings, I won't see any of the local settings or application data. So end user won't even be able to select it. So like temporary internet files is not there here. So you won't be able to, yeah, go ahead.
How would this behave with upgrading systems? I should probably need to go in and look carefully, I guess.
When you upgrade an
existing-
existing client,
Yeah.
you can't do it for existing clients because the exclusions are part of the database. Then when you upgrade, it won't override the database. So if you upgrade existing clients, you have to go to options, preferences, and set the exclusions on the client side.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay.
A question then about selecting my documents in Vista.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's not, you can't get to my documents in Vista file structure because it's not really in that location.
It's under C
the version.
users. It's not under C document and settings. It's under C users. If you go to C users, you'll see administrator, and if you expand administrator, you'll see documents. It's not defined as my documents anymore. So it's just defined as documents, and you'll usually find it under C users, and you'll see all the users listed there, and you'll see documents underneath that.
Yeah, so I will be able to back that up because if you go to file browser, it's not really there, is it?
It should be there.
It is there, yeah. Perhaps
Yeah.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look for that. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, you can define file exclusions, and we also defined exclusions for temporary and system files, and even those won't appear in the interface, so users won't be able to select them. So so we've done some selections here. Let's go ahead and do the first thing you would do is do a test connection. So after you install the client, okay.
I think you got the wrong account group.
Oh.
And I noticed that when you printed the form, it was wrong.
Right, yeah, I think I created. To change the account group, I think you all know how to change the account group on the client, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So first thing you would do is run the test connection, and if the test connection actually sends a file to the server, it backs up and restores the file. So it does a backup and restore. So if this goes through fine, then the client is communicating well with the server and it's ready for backups. So let's go ahead and do a backup. First backup, if it is greater than, you have to use your judgment here whether to use the copy to disk backup for the initial full, or you can run it online. Depending on the client's uplink speed, you can calculate based on how long it's going to take to do a backup online. If you go to our website, we have calculators. If you search for calculator on our website, you can actually find out how long it will take to send a particular amount of data. So click on the speed calculator, and this is where you plug in the numbers. Let's say you're backing up 100 megabytes, and the compression ratio is 75%, for example, and the internet speed, let's say it's a cable modem. And if you calculate it, it says it takes 8 minutes to transfer 100 megabytes. So let's say they have 10 gigabytes of information, and that will take 800 minutes. That's like 12 hours or 14 hours actually, close to 13 to 14 hours. So it's based on your judgment. You can either do a copy to disk, so you can take an external drive to the client system, plug it in, and select copy to disk, and it's going to do a backup to the external drive, to the external media that you plug to the client server. And that's fairly quick because it's just doing a backup locally. I would say anything about 10 to 15, anything greater than 10 or 15 gigs, use copy to disk. just because it's quicker and easier. Or some people do it or start the backup online on Friday night and leave it running over the weekend. So you have 2 days of window so to complete a backup online. So you could do that as well. Let's do a run now. So I've selected some SQL databases here, and I've selected a few files. Oh, actually, I'd selected a lot of files. So, okay. You know what? I'm going to cancel this because it's like 12 gigs. I'm going to select something smaller.
Let me ask you a question, too. I know you can put a pause button on there through a registry entry, I believe.
Yes.
Is there a reason that you don't make that the default? I mean, I think many times a customer's computer, for some reason, starts a backup in the middle of the day, or it's not done at 8 a.m.
We didn't make it default because we thought it's the service provider's choice. If you want to give that option.
Can you do that in the client installer? Is that?
It's not. Actually, I'll add it to the customized installer. It's not part of the customized client installer right now. But what you can to add it to the client installer, what you can do is you can go to the client folder on the server, and you'll see this rbackup.reg file. You'll see this reg file edited in Notepad, and you can add a registry key called pause mode and set it to true.
Okay.
And that'll get saved in the reg file, and it'll have that option by default when you install and build the client installer and install it.
One more question, if I can ask Rob. Are we going to be able to replay these at a later time?
Yes, I'm recording this.
Okay, super. Yeah, you will be able to.
So I'll be able to pull this back up sometime where I make better notes, is what I was.
Right. What I'm going to do is it's going to take us a day or two to get this
That's
converted, and then I'll send you an email.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob. That's great.
Oh, of course. Okay. Let's say you want to start. There are some right-click options to set archive flag. If your default file selection is archive bed, you can also force on the client. You can right-click on a folder on the left-hand panel, and you can force the archive flag. So it does a full backup when you select the file. So if you right-click on a folder, you can say set archive flag. So it will go ahead and set the archive flag and all the folders and subfolders and files underneath that folder. So if you set this flag and do a backup, then you're basically doing a full backup to start with. In some cases, you would require to do it. For example, if you already finished the first full backup and now the user wants to add a new folder to the backup selection, if you just include it in the existing backup set, it might not back up all the files because your file selection is archive bed. So when the client scans that new folder, it will only select files for whose the archive bed is turned on. So if you have to add a new folder to an existing backup set, I would recommend after you select that folder, you can right-click and say set archive flag, and that will set the flag in all the files. And then when you do a backup, it's going to select the entire folder. And similarly, there is option if you select modify date and time as your file selection, you'll see a right-click menu option to set the modify date and time.
Oh, really? Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we just did a backup. You can also rename a backup set. You can delete a backup set. When you delete a backup set, it will prompt you, do you want to also delete the files from the server? And if you say yes, the client will go ahead and delete all the files for that backup set from the server as well.
I think I'm right in saying that you guys prefer modified date and time these days.
Like I said,
right?
if it's less than 10,000 files, yeah. But if it's greater than 10,000 files, it might take a while to scan. Then if the number of files is higher than 10,000, I would say go with FastPick. FastPick also works the same way. Yeah.
Okay.
But in most cases, I would recommend using Archivit unless the client, the user is having a tape solution or uses some other form of backup locally. Then you might want to switch to modified data time or FastPick. Okay, the auto select filter, you can turn on auto select, and the auto select filter is based on selecting files by file extension. So once you turn on auto select, you can click on edit auto select, and you can define which files the client can back up based on file extensions. So there are two different types of extensions here. The first tab is file types. Now these file types are loaded from the registry on that. These are the file types registered on my computer. So if you install the client on some other machine, it will read the registry and load the file types based on the types registered on that particular machine. So this particular list of extensions are coming from the registry. So these are all the registered file types on my machine. So you can drill down and include which files you want to back up. You can also define your own user-defined types. So you can click on add, and if you have a file type called GTR or something, you can include that. So you can also include those file extensions. So these are user-defined. If you want to back up HTML, you can back up HTML. All you have to do is right-click on all the selections and include it. So that's based on if auto select is turned on, what the client does is when it does a backup, it basically scans the entire drive for any of the extensions that you have included and includes that as part of the backup set.
Can I ask some questions?
Yeah, sure.
About that? Okay. Can I exclude files of the type?
Yeah,
For
you can.
example, JPEG. Can I just say exclude backup everything except JPEG?
That might be best done under user defined.
Yeah, you can define JPEG here.
Yeah.
You can also put a semicolon and add multiple extensions.
JPG, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can say exclude, and those won't be backed up.
Very good.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah, but if you want to apply a global filter, I would go with the exclusions where we define the wildcard exclusions. You can put JPEG there. That will be applied globally. In the backup exclusions that we saw earlier, in the customized client installer, you can go here, click on edit, and you can type JPEG here. So
can we do that in the client end as well?
Yeah.
Log in as administrator and do it there.
Yeah, you can do that too. On the client, you go to options, preferences.
Yeah, log in.
Admin log, and then click on admin options, and you'll see exclusions here. So you can type in .jpeg here and click on update. So it won't be included in the backup set.
Okay. I've got to
Okay, sure.
I've got another question.
Okay.
Using this technique, all folders are scanned.
Yes.
There's a registry tweak, possibly, to say do it the other way around.
Yes, there is a registry key. There is a registry key called override AS. If you set this override AS to true, what that means
override
is
AS.
Yeah, override AS for override auto select, short for override auto select. If you set this to true, and this is also part of the customized client installer. Let me go back there. If you go back to the customized client installer and select backup sets, you'll see the second tab called auto select filter. You'll see this override auto select. If you set this to yes, then the filter applies to only folders that you included in the backup set.
Okay.
So in this case, if I set that registry key, the auto select filter will only apply to these two folders, which are marked with a green check. So it won't scan the entire drive. It will only scan these two folders. So yes, that's the override AS registry key.
That speeds up that scanning process, which can sometimes take a long time.
Yes, it does. If you don't have the registry override, it's going to scan the entire the local disk, which is C drive. It will scan the entire C drive. Yeah. Okay, moving on. You can also view logs. You can look at the session log, where the client generally, if there is anything wrong with the client setup or a client configuration, or if the client is unable to load or run properly, you'll most likely see an error message in the session log. And you can also view the backup logs. For each backup that you run, it generates a backup log, and by default, the log level is set to the standard logging. So you will have less information like what is included and what are the folders that excluded. You'll see that it excluded all these folders. The reason why it did that is because we set the global exclusions not to back up Windows and temporary internet files, the application data, System32, so it didn't back up all this. So it will tell you which files were included. In this case, folder 1 and folder 2 were included. And it also tells you the excluded folders. And if there were some exclude file types, we excluded the TMP files for this backup set. So it shows you what file types were excluded too. And it gives you information on what was backed up and how many bytes were transferred and when the backup finished, the date and time. It also gives you more information in the header, like what is the username, what's the name of the backup set. The 002 is the data folder on the server. So for each session, the client creates a data folder on the server. It starts with 001 and it goes on to 002, 003, and so forth. The selection mode is incremental. It tells you the OFA, the Open Files Agent status. We didn't install OFA, so it says it's not available. The file selection method is archive bit. Was this a scheduled backup? No, it was. We launched it manually, so it's not a schedule. It also tells you what user account the client is running under. So you get all kinds of information from the log. And you can also set it to verbose log level, and verbose log level will include even the file names for each and every file that was included or excluded. So you'll have a more detailed logging for in verbose log. I would set it to detailed. That would give me all the information that is enough for me to keep track of exclusions or exceptions, and enough information to do some debugging and all that. So detailed log in most cases is enough for the client side. Schedule, we went over that. Restore interface. Now the restore interface, you can either search, there is a search option here, and you can search by file type. Did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. This search engine works like a Windows search. You can search by file type, or you can search by part of the file name or part of folder name. So you can do all kinds of things, or you can do star.star for all the files. You can also select by backup set. You can also do a date search, like you can do on date or in between date or before date or after particular date. You can also set by version number. If you want only the most recent version, you can select that option. If you uncheck that, it will show you all the versions available. If you just do a search, it will show you all the files that we backed up. So you can basically include which files you want to restore. And you can change the location. Let's do a restore onto the particular folder.
That's good that you can do it in that screen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Quicker.
Yeah. And you can make your files and select all the files that you want to back up. And when you start the restore, it will contact the server. It says it's complete already, and there are 3 tabs here. The file progress shows you all the files that are in progress, and this shows you a list of all the files. I mean, it gives you the results on how many files were restored and not restored. If there is any errors, you'll see errors here. So in this case,
what do you mean by file progress?
Like we just did, if you do a restore, it shows you while files are being downloaded, extracted, and let's pick a bigger file, or we can select all of these actually. So right now you see it's downloading, decrypting, decompressing. You'll see the progress for each and every file.
Yeah.
While it's doing the processing, you'll see it go through. So it gives you a status. I mean, there are different. It shows you the file name, the path, the size, the process, the progress, and the status. The status is basically whether it's downloading, whether it's decrypting, or it's in the decompression stage. So it gives you all those details. But when it's done, you can see total number of files that were selected and total number of files that were restored. Yeah. And if there is an error, it gives you what kind of an error and why it failed. So that's the restore interface. Any questions on backup and restore?
I will. I do have one about backup restore, but I don't. I want to make sure I understand it first before I ask you the question. So I'll probably ask you later.
Okay. In terms of bit backup, you don't have to do anything special. If you were to go to the restore interface, you restore bit backup files like you would restore anything else. The client will do the rest in the background. Like if you selected a patch file, the client knows to get the corresponding base file from the server and restore it. So it will do all that. I mean, all you have to do is...
Let me answer my question, and now that you said that.
Okay.
And I may not be understanding it, but let's say you have a local store, and you got these updated files that are on the server, and the computer is destroyed for some reason. How do you... I mean, isn't there going to be some lapse of data there somewhere or not? Am I missing that?
The client, if you select a file that was backed up using bit backup, and the restore interface, it knows to it knows if it's a bit backup file by its own database. So it knows if it's a bit backup file, it goes to the bit backup local store location and tries to find the file there. If the file is not there, it automatically connects to the server and downloads the file from the server.
So basically, it gets two parts for that file. Then, what you say? I mean, if it's been changed. There's two parts on the server. There's the full one.
No, I mean even locally, the client stores the full copy and the latest patch.
That's what I'm saying. What if the local copy is gone?
Then it connects to the server and downloads it from the server.
Okay. So there are two parts to this on the server. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So that's the restore interface. We saw the test connection option. If you want to change the encryption key, the user can change that. You can type in the user password. In this case, I'm typing in user1, and I think it's already in admin mode, so it's going to the admin password. But yeah, you get the idea. I mean, if you log in using the user password, you won't be able to change the logon name, password, or any of these details, but you can change the encryption key or method. Or you can also create a key file. If he hasn't done already, he can regenerate a key file. Some customers might want to change encryption key periodically. They can do that, but whenever they do that, you have to tell them or inform them they have to update the key file and store it locally, someplace secure. So.
And I guess that they have to do a full, some kind of backup before that will be reflected on the server.
That's correct, yeah. If they change an encryption key, that key will only work unless they've done a new backup to the server.
Yeah. And the other question now is about synchronize. There is an option to turn off synchronize after backup. Why would you want to do that?
That's just there for...
I think it's a registry thing, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a registry key to turn off synchronization. It is recommended not to do that, but the only reason why we have that is if you have the retention options, like let's go to the retention settings. So after you log in, go back to the schedule. So you have this retention settings, right? Like to purge files older than X amount of days. In some cases, some service providers have this option selected, like to keep number of backup sets to keep online. And what they do is they just do a full backup every day. So in this case, they don't have to synchronize everything. or synchronize with the old data because they're doing full every day anyway. So there's no reason for the client to synchronize. So only in this case, like when you're doing full backup and you're retaining by number of backup sets, then you don't have to tell the client to synchronize. It's just a waste of time because if you define by number of backup sets, you're only maintaining 3 backup sets or 3 backup sessions on the server, and it's going to be a full backup every time anyway, so there's no need to synchronize.
Is that done by per job, or is that by per set?
It's by set, yeah. A set meaning a session. Like if you
Yes.
Like if you do daily backups from Monday to Friday, and if you have this option set to 3, for example, after Monday's backup, nothing will get purged from the server. After Tuesday's backup, nothing will get purged. After Wednesday, nothing gets purged. On Thursday's backup, after Thursday's backup is complete, it will purge Monday's backup because it is set to keep the most recent 3 backup sets online.
Yeah, but if I've also got other backup jobs running, which I want synchronization to work for, so
no, it's not
I need to
defined.
leave it on.
Yeah, you have to leave it on. Yeah, that registry key is not per backup.
Yeah, keep it simple. Leave it on. Okay.
We just included that because a couple of providers have requested for that, but it's not recommended. But yeah,
Guys, we've only got 10 minutes left. Do you want to? Have we looked at the simple interface yet?
not yet. I'm going there right now.
Can you? Oh, okay, all right.
The other options are delete files interface. If you want to delete files from the server, you can use this interface, which is basically the old restore interface. If you've been using the version 8 software, you're familiar with this interface. But this interface, they can select files and click on apply and delete, and that will actually delete files from the server. So that's about the advanced interface. Let's move on to the simple interface. Now this is the new simple interface, and this will be part of. This will be the main interface moving forward. In a couple of upgrades, I think we will have this as the default for the client software. This tells you on the left-hand side, it gives you information about the next schedule. It also gives you information about the last backup time and how many files were transferred. It tells you the version number of the software. On the top here, it gives you options to view the logs, similarly like you have in the advanced interface. This is the help option. It takes you to the help file for the simple interface. And let's go over these options real quick. The backup set. Now, this is the backup set interface. You can define new backup set, or you can create new. You can edit existing backup sets. So let's look at the daily backup set. So you can change the name of the backup set. You can delete it. You can start a backup now. You can also do a copy to disk from here. You can click on next, and the simple interface has a new way of selecting files, and these file sets are coming from this. These are also customizable, and we will go over it tomorrow on how to define your own file sets. Like My Pictures, you can select My Pictures, and you can define what extensions you want to back up with My Pictures, and it automatically selects those. You can select documents, and it selects all the document files like Word documents. You can select Adobe PDF files, so you can select by file sets, and you can program these. You can customize these file sets. So you can define the end user can either select simply by selecting using the file sets on the left hand side, or you can right click on the file explorer view on the right hand side and include files. So that's the file selection interface. If you select next, this is where you define the schedule and the backup type, and you can give the Windows account information if you want to run it under local system account. You can set the time for backup. So all the options that are part of the advanced interface are now part of simple interface as well. So everything that you can do with advanced, you can also do it with simple. For example, if you click on advanced here and enter admin password, it will take you to the purge retention options. It will take you to the file selection options, compression level, and the power management options. So you can define or change any of the settings here. Once you're done with making your selections and setting up a schedule, and once you click on finish, it automatically creates a Windows task scheduler for you, and all the options are saved. And you can start a backup by selecting which backup you want to run. That's the manual backup. You can do a test connection, and it will do a test to the server. The restore interface is the same like we looked at, which is the same as the advanced interface. So there's no change in the restore interface. Settings. If you go to the settings, you can change the log level here, and there is a lock as well. You can double click on the lock, enter admin password, and you'll be able to change the login information. You can also change the encryption key, and you have all these admin options. So you can change the advanced options, you can edit the exclusions like we looked in the advanced. You can set or change the client locks. So all these advanced options can be changed even with the simple interface. The bit backup and the temporary file path location. The bit backup reference path that's where the local store resides for bit backup. So when you define a backup set, make sure if you're using bit backup, you have to come here and define the correct local store location. If your bit backup is going to reside on external drive, so make sure you point it to that external drive. Transfer verification.
Can I just ask about the difference between the reference path and the temporary file path? Presumably,
Sure.
the temp area is just when it's building these
Exactly.
this stuff. It's
When-
going to store the stuff on the reference path.
Yeah, the temporary file path is only for temporary usage by the client. When it's doing the encryption and compression, it temporarily moves the files to this location, the ctemp backup, where it compresses and encrypts the file. And then after the transfer it completes, after the transfer is complete, it clears that location. So that file path is only used temporarily during a backup session.
But
And
I guess it's got to be at least as big, if not bigger than the biggest file I'm going to back up. If I'm backing up Exchange, MTA or something,
Yeah, that's
could be
correct.
quite big.
That's correct, yeah. That requirement is the biggest file. It should be as big as the biggest file. You're correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Transfer verification, I would recommend leaving it as file by file. What transfer verification means is that the client, after transmitting a file to the server, it does a checksum verification and it does 2-3 kinds of verification to ensure that the file has made it across successfully to the server. So you can define whether you want to do it at end, meaning after a batch of files has been transferred, or if you want to do it file by file, but I would recommend doing file by file. This option should always be set to true. Like if there is let's say the client skipped the scheduled backup and he starts the computer next day morning, and as long as the attempt window is still applicable, it will start a backup on startup. I mean, if a backup was missed, a scheduled backup was missed, it'll try to launch a backup whenever the client reboots his computer. Always store catalog. This option means it'll send the catalog file or the database file, which is the backup.mdb file. It'll send that file to the server even if there are no files to be backed up in a particular session. In some cases, you'll have a 0 file session, meaning nothing has changed on the client side. In that case, you're basically telling the client either to send the catalog or not send the catalog. I would say send the catalog. You can select this option to hide the backup progress screen during scheduled backup, and stealth mode is to run with no screens at all. It will run as a background process. Priority level, I would recommend setting it to normal. That's the processing priority that the client uses. Normal is the recommended setting. Advanced options, there are some options. I mean, these are already set to the recommended options, but you might want to give it a reading. The queue limit is the number of files transferred at a time. The client does the transfer in batches of 250 files, which is defined by this queue limit. What that means is it basically compresses and transfers 250 files at a time. You can reduce this to as low as 1. So what that means, it will get one file at a time, compress, encrypt, and transfer it, and gets the next file for transfer. So if in case the temporary file path, the C temp location, if they don't have enough room on C drive, they have only like 5 GB or 10 GB, and they're running out of room on C drive, and they don't have another drive that you can default the temp location, you can reduce this number to let's say 10 or 15 or something like that. So it doesn't use as much of temporary space during a backup. Subfolder limit is the number of files that are stored in one data folder on the server. The default is 5,000. You can set it to anywhere from 1 to 10,000. There's no reason to change it. Timeout is the number of seconds the client tries to connect. 60 seconds is good. Store name characters is by default 0. Let's say you want to identify files on the server. You can set this to 15, or you can set the value anywhere from 0 to 55. What this means is it will append the original file name characters to the encrypted file name. So on your server, you'll see the encrypted file names, right? You'll see if you set this value to 15, the first 15 characters of the original file name will be appended to the encrypted file name. So on the server, you'll be able to see the original file names, at least the first 15 characters of the original file name. Retain logs, by default it's set to 3. 3 means 3 days. If you want to retain logs for a higher number, you can set this value to a higher number. By default, it can exclude the temp files, meaning any temporary files gets excluded that starts with the .tmp extension will be excluded. Bit backup performance options is specifically for bit backup. It's already set to the recommended options. It's set to use the maximum memory, and it's set to an optimum speed level, but you can increase it if you want to. If you have higher processing power on the client side, you can increase the speed level and max it so bit backups happen faster. You can also change the log location where you store the logs on the client side. By default, it's the application folder. And you also have these logs which are self-explanatory. If you don't want certain features, like if you don't want the client to delete, create, or rename an existing backup set, or create a new backup set, if you don't want them to change the file selections, you can log that option. You can do all kinds of other features too. Exclusions, we went through this already. Keep a note that these exclusions are per backup set. If you have more than one backup set defined, each has its own exclusions. So you have to define it for multiple backup sets if you have more than one. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that's enough. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Good.
Like the interface?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of like the old one, right? It'll probably grow on me.
Yeah, the new interface is much simpler, and it's like wizard driven, so it's simple to use.
I think for a lot of users, it just needs some simple backup. That could be good. It should be all.
We're just trying to make one step out of the 90s.
I think you're doing very well. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I think
That's
we're
great.
out of time tomorrow, so we'll meet again tomorrow at the same time, I think.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Okay, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Same time, same place tomorrow, and we'll go ahead with the second webinar. This one will be advanced customization. It's a good one. And let's see. We're going to need some graphics. Would you guys like to send in some graphics if you've got some already? Icons and things like that that we can use. Otherwise, we can use somebody else's to customize it tomorrow. If you want to.
I'll try my best.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks very much for coming today.
Well, thank you very much. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Really appreciated it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.
Good night.